Hey, welcome to an international episode. Fuck. God damn it.
You're trying to get all creative and shit.
Yeah, I know. I didn't write this part down. This is eggs. This is eggs.
What's eggs?
Eggs is a podcast about all things creative, regardless of what that means to you. From the creativity involved in launching a business, building a brand, crafting an entertainment career, or whatever, we'll talk about the process of growing your eggs from start to finish.
Yeah. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Oh, just living the dream, as we do every week here at the Eggs Show. So coming to you live from a secret location on the other side of the planet. So
I don't think it's that secret. We talk about it all the time.
It's true. It's not that big a secret. I'm right now broadcasting from Barcelona, Spain, which is awesome. The weather is great. The sun is shining. Everything is perfect. It's a little humid compared to Utah. But otherwise, no complaints.
I'm actually in Seattle. We're on the complete opposite side of the globe from
each other. Funny. Normally we get together to do the show, but today and for the next 5 weeks, actually, we'll be doing this show remote. And, we found a piece of software that helps us facilitate doing this, and it works like a charm. We couldn't be happier. So
yeah, super stoked. Zero lag, zero delay. It's amazing.
It's amazing. Actually, let's give them a little plug. The website or the software is called Zencaster. And it was recommended to me by a friend, and it is awesome. Like, we really cannot complain.
I mean, it's almost easy enough to the point where I'm going to stop driving to Salt Lake. So.
Hey, now, there's something to be said for being in the same room together. I'm sure of it.
Okay. All right.
So, although I don't know. I mean, now I don't have to shower anymore. I don't have to do anything. I could just...
Dude, I'm sitting here in my underwear eating Cheetos. Don't even worry about
it. That's fantastic. So, well, I'm not going to tell you what I'm wearing or not, but... but suffice it to say, I got to Barcelona Sunday morning, 8 a.m. I stood in line for 3 hours to get through passport control, which is awesome experience.
That had to be a nightmare.
Well, it's funny because
crazy now because of the all the crap that's going on.
No, because they didn't even look me in the eyes when they punched my card. They just let me right in. But I think what it is, well, first of all, I got there early, and I'm just not sure that they were there yet, because when I finally started getting near the window, they only had maybe, 4 or 5 windows open to service. God, it had to be 2,000 or 3,000 people. Oh, and then as time rolled on, and I stood in line for eternity, they opened up more and more windows. So I think part of it could have just been Sunday morning. The other part of it's probably summer tourism, summer traffic. I've actually never been here during the summer months, not to Barcelona anyway. And, this is the prime tourist season and all that stuff. So it's, extra busy everywhere I'm going. So I suspect that's got something to do with it.
So you're going to be in Barcelona for 5 weeks?
Yeah, I'll be here until the end of July. And what I'm here for is I'm attending a Spanish language academy. I'm trying to up my game a little bit. As we've advocated on this show, and we'll always advocate, it's a big deal to keep on learning and keep doing better and learning more and moving forward. And in order for me to keep doing business here in Spain and to improve the business we do here in Spain, it's, super critical that I actually get some mastery of the language. And, I don't have any, grand ideas that I'm going to get it all figured out over the course of 5 weeks. But if I can get a nice bump to my level, that will help. And then, maybe we'll do it again next year or whatever. We'll just do a little by little and continue to improve.
Well, you'd be shocked at how much you can learn in 5 weeks, especially when you're immersed in something like a different language. You've already have a really good understanding of the language. You've taken classes before in the past. And I've heard you talk. You're getting fairly good. I don't know Spanish, but I know that you're borderline there. So I think with 5 weeks of intense immersion, you should be fine.
Well, and I think that's going to be the key, actually, is the immersion component. Now, unfortunately, my whole afternoon is spent doing work for American clients and taking calls in America and stuff like that. So it's not a 100% immersive experience. But today actually was my first day of class. And so I rolled down there at 8 o'clock this morning, took a verbal exam, and a written exam, and they sort of placed me.
Were you in kindergarten or first grade?
I don't know what it means, actually. She rated me an A2 with 8-9. So I suspect that's something to do with, level 8, 9 in A2. And so I don't know what that means, really. It's the first textbook, but it's the back half of the first textbook. So I think that, I'm doing okay. But it's funny, too, though, because I have a lot of strengths and a lot of other things that I've picked up along the way that are not necessarily what they teach in order as you're going through a language program. So even though I came in at an A2, there's, a fair bit of especially cultural things and local to Spain things that I might have that, would actually have me be a little bit more advanced in some of those ways. So they put me as an A2, and then I guess we can kind of reassess each week if the program isn't difficult enough or if I need a little more. They're really adaptive, really responsive to whatever it is we need, and they've actually, it's only our first day, but they were awesome today. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
Neat. Yeah. How many people are in your class? What's the
in our group? So when I came in, there was maybe, I don't know, 30 people starting today, and then they break you up into your different groups. And so in my class, there's only 6 of us, and so it's kind of nice because you get really hands-on, one-on-one attention from the professors or from the teachers or whatever they're called, and so it, I think, is going to be a really good experience because basically, any question you have a person right there to answer it. And but everything, all the way down to the receptionist when I arrived this morning, is total immersion. And so
she wouldn't talk to you in English.
No, everything was Spanish. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. But like when I arrived yesterday, I had left the States. I left Salt Lake City at about 8:30 in the morning. Flew to Atlanta, then from Atlanta I went the rest of the way to Barcelona, and I got here at 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, or 8:20 in the morning on Sunday. And so basically there was that, and then I kind of went like all day until about 11:30 or midnight without sleep. So basically 2 days without sleeping. And when I got here, one of my partners over here in Spain picked me up, and she took me over to her parents' house, and they made me paella and all this stuff. But I was so dog tired that I just, I couldn't really enjoy the experience. And her family doesn't really speak any English at all. And so I needed to try and speak some Spanish, but my brain was such mush. I couldn't even keep up. So yeah. I was a little bummed out because it makes for kind of a rocky intro, and like last night I was so tired. I just got like a little bit, I don't know, a little bit overwhelmed that I just couldn't move, or couldn't stay with the conversation at all.
Well, you've been out of it for a long time. You haven't been to Spain for a while. You've been super busy at work. You haven't had a chance to actually, get into it.
These last 3 months, actually, I haven't spoken almost any Spanish, other than a little bit of texting back and forth. And unfortunately, that's not enough to keep a decent level going. So, yeah, so the time since really practicing and everything else at work and being out in Boston for a couple months, all that stuff has sort of just interfered with my ability to perform.
Well, it's not even that. It's just, it takes a little bit to get it back into, like for example, when I'm doing web development work or coding or whatever, like yesterday I sat down and I finally had a day to just work on that. Everything for the last 2 or 3 weeks has been music related or building that rock wall and all this other stuff. So I haven't had much time to just sit down and work on websites. And the first hour or so, it's like you're playing catch up, figuring out where you left off, trying to, get everything going. And I think, in a day or two, even, just being there for a little while and getting your head around you, it'll start coming back quicker than you think.
Yeah, the only other thing I kind of wanted to say about this trip is so the flat that I'm in, or the apartment that I'm in, is in a neighborhood called Born, or Elborn. It's one of the older parts of Barcelona, and so it's a really interesting area. I'll share some pictures and stuff like that on our Instagram so that you guys can see what's going on. And Mike, feel free to chip in. You can put up a picture of the Space Needle if you must.
No, I can put up a picture of this like 1-star hotel I'm in recording this podcast.
Perfect.
This is
Please
like,
do it.
Yeah, this is horrible.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's post your mobile studio, and I'll post out my mobile studio, and we'll see how we're doing.
Okay.
So, so anyway, but yeah, so I'll share some pictures and everything. It's a really cool part of the city. I'm right next to the Arc de Triomphe, which is a real huge landmark here in the city. I'm about 2 minute walk from there, and so it's a really cool area, right near the sort of downtown metro areas and train stations and stuff. It's pretty good location. The school is near Plaza Catalunya, which is also kind of a hot spot. And yeah, so anyway, it's a really cool area. I'm bummed that you're not over here, Mikey. You should have come this way.
One of these days I'm going to make it out there.
You got 5 weeks to pull the trigger, get it done.
I'm afraid the airfare right now would break me.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's any discounted flights going on right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. Well, let's see if we can kind of pivot and let's get into the topic. For anybody who listened to the show last week, we had begun life in our last episode talking about self-promotion and things that you can do to try and sell yourself or position yourself in business. And then Mike so rudely decided to take a diatribe.
Changed it to self-help. No, we were talking about just your personal character and your just kind of. I had to broach the topic because I'm like I can't be two-faced. I got to tell the truth and my moral. Whatever. So I kind of digressed and took us off topic, but I just had to explain that.
It was totally worth it, and I'm glad we did. I felt like it was a worthwhile conversation. I think showing, sort of some insecurity and the things that you worked through, I think is something that is super relatable to the people who might be listening to the show and trying to grow whatever their egg is also. And so, yeah, I think it was totally worth doing. But with that said, we wanted to sort of circle back around and finish up the second part of that. But we're gonna talk about a few things that we think people can do to sort of help promote their own business or promote themselves, and hopefully these ideas will help get a conversation started.
Yep.
So anyway, the first thing we wanted to touch on is networking. Just network. I mean, it's literally about the most important thing you can do. It really is the name of the game. Especially at home in the U.S. I mean, this is, as important as it can be. But here over in Spain, for example, the networking is literally it. I mean, there is no other way around it. It's really important. People here and also in the U.S., know you, like you, trust you. And the way you build that good rapport is through networking. So I put together a little list of a couple things you can do to stay in touch with people. And they all seem really simple, but it's amazing how few people do it. And they'll really help you stand out from the crowd. Okay. So, yeah. So the first thing I want to talk about is just sending out birthday greetings or remembering other special occasions.
I don't even do this with my mom. I'm horrible when it comes to remembering birthdays, and I always see it like at 8:00 the night of their birthday, and then I feel like, oh, I'm the last guy to comment on it. Because it's always social media that tells me like, oh, he had a birthday, and now I don't want to text him at 10:00 at night. But
yeah, well, and that's me too. I'm particularly bad, and what I'm talking to is more than a like on Facebook, but maybe sending a physical letter or a card or something to a client will really make you stand out, especially now in this day and age of email and social media, because it's infinitely easier for people to just click thumb up or like it on Facebook or whatever, so sending something tangible can really go a long way in terms of the way a person or a client or a potential client feels about you. And more than just a birthday. I mean, dig deep, find out their anniversary, find out when their business started, find out when they hit some milestone in life, and hit them on those special occasions with some sort of mailer or whatever, preferably something, hand signed and personal. And I think you'll find,
just go the extra step and set yourself apart from someone else,
Well,
I mean, everyone else is.
That's really the moral of the story. It's the extra step, and that'll be the recurring thing in all these suggestions. None of these suggestions are particularly revolutionary, but what they are is that next step. That you're going to another level that's beyond what your run of the mill company or whatever will do. And I mean, I think all of us have probably gotten a birthday card from Starbucks or, whatever. And but they're cool, but it's like super impersonal. It doesn't really mean anything. And, but a handwritten note signed by the owner of a company or by a person who's starting out in business, I think, can really go a long way.
Okay. So
yeah, moving forward, I think it's really important, not to completely downplay the importance of social media, but I do think it's important to take the time to respond to social media posts and requests. Of course, this is a little bit within reason. You don't have to reply to all the, the trolls or the people who are trying to tear you down. But I do think it's important that when people reach out to you, that you try to respond back as best as you can. It's not always going to be practical. If you get, thousands of requests like this show is bound to, then of course it might be a little difficult to respond to everybody. But I think in general, people are taking a moment and asking a question of you. They are trying to pick your brain. They are trying to engage. And so I do think it's important to have some level of conversation with them.
Oh, it's super critical, especially if they're peers, people in the same industry and people that have legitimate questions about, how do you do this? How do you do that? And just by developing those relationships, and answering and taking the time to, acknowledge their question. A year or two down the road, you never know what that could lean into. They could land some, big job that they need help with. And,
well, yeah. I mean, that's the point is a little goodwill can go a long way. So, you do something now for this kid that's just coming out of college or whatever, but maybe down the road when he's got his own business, he remembers your name because you're the one that was willing to open the door to him.
Yeah, I'm a perfect example of that because I always try to reach back and help the people that help me get to where I'm at. So if I, have any level of success, I know that it's coming from, other people helping me out. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's really an important thing. And, social media, mail requests, whatever you receive, I think it's important to try and respond to people.
Yep.
Another, maybe an easy way, and in fact, I'm doing one of these tonight, is attend an event and talk to everyone. So it doesn't really matter what the event is, but there are a million networking meetings, business meetings, startup meetings, all kinds of conferences, things like that you can attend, and take those opportunities and really seize them. Take the moment to meet everyone in the room. For the same reason as responding on social media or sending a birthday card, the whole point is nurturing and developing relationships.
And I would say on that note as well, make sure when you go to the event, you're prepared to have your business card ready. Have you're there for a reason, and you're trying to develop relationships and network with people. So don't go there with your hands in your pocket and say, hey, what's your email? I'll hit you up. Have your contact info and just be ready to network.
Yeah, well, and a lot of people advocate for a thing called an elevator pitch, which is basically a really brief way of explaining yourself, explaining your business, explaining your product, whatever it is that you're trying to sell basically to somebody. I'm not in love with the prospect or the idea of doing sort of an elevator pitch. For me, it feels a little contrived. It feels a little bit like, here, let me convince you to give me your money in 2 minutes or less.
You feel like a door-to-door salesman. You walk up and you're trying to instantly get your product in their hand, and I feel like you almost have to just kind of shoot the shit with them for a little bit, just kind of get to know them. And then if the topic of business or whatever comes up, it comes up. If not, don't force the issue and maybe email them later.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think, the concept behind it is basically trying to be appreciative of people's time. If you're meeting with somebody who happens to be important or whatever, just, you're trying not to waste their time. You're trying to be efficient with the moment that you have with them. But yeah, I really think it's more about just that, that relationship that you can foster by just being cool to each other, just having a conversation, I think will take you further than really just trying to shove down your throat that you need an investor for your new iPhone app.
Yeah. And as they'll probably tell you that I've been hit up 400 times about similar stuff, and you have to, it's your relationship that's going to set you apart from the other 200 or 300 people that are trying to get access to their money or their,
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean that really.
Not even that. I'm not even saying that that's it, but I mean, like, you really have to just develop the relationship first and then take the business later.
Well,
So,
and at least in my mind, I feel like it's important to not come off looking greedy
yeah.
or needy or whatever. I mean, really, if you're developing a business or whatever, of course, you may depend on getting some cash infusion or something to make it happen. But I at least when I approach people, I don't generally come to them with money in mind.
Oh yeah,
I
no,
want
no,
it
no.
to look.
I wasn't even meaning that. I just kind of
Oh yeah,
slipped
no,
out.
I'm
So
just
yeah,
trying to add to it that I just sort of think that I mean in my mind I want them to think that I'm going forward in my business whether or not they contribute to it.
yeah,
And and I think that that's sort of a level of confidence that a lot of people don't have, but I think, especially when you're trying to launch a company, you might get a little anxious or a little excited to get some money so that you can, really go out and build out your vision. And Mike, you're the same way as I am, at least in this regard. That we'll go it alone. We'll put our own time, our own money, our own resources, whatever, into these projects, and generally we don't go asking for money.
no.
Of course, in larger scale products, you've got to seek out some financing or whatever, but like I say, I never want to be in a position where it looks like I need their contribution in order to make my business happen.
Well, and you don't. I mean, it's the level of effort and dedication and drive that you have into succeeding that's going to set you apart and eventually will allow you to succeed. And if you're just in it to try and get a lump sum of money up front, and once you get it, you're just rely on other people, and you don't have the drive to do it yourself, the business is going to fail. So it's just a matter of your drive and dedication, and if you're willing to go the extra effort and make it happen regardless of if the money's there or not, then you'll succeed. It's just you got to keep grinding.
Well, and I think it's important to illustrate that character trait to prospects or people that you're meeting at these conventions or events. That you are driven and you have this sort of internal fortitude that will get you through this project with or without them.
Yeah. So.
As sort of an extension of the social media or responding to social media requests and posts, sort of a related topic is this idea of staying current and relevant, reply quickly within reason to phone calls and email.
So what's quickly in your book?
Well, it's sort of a gray area, right? I mean, for some people, it might be 24 hours. For some people, it might be a week. It's really hard to say because it is sort of based on each individual's level of busy, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But, for the same reasons as responding in social media, basically somebody took the time to pen a note to you, you should do, if possible, you should at least figure out a way to respond to it. And so I think it's important to try and stay on top of that stuff. I mean, now not everything's timely and not everything is important. So I understand that for people who are busy or who receive a lot of email, they've got to do a little bit of, prioritization, deciding what is most important so that they can respond to the most important things first. But, and that's why I put the little caveat of within reason, because, this is going to be a little bit different for everybody. But the moral of the story is, try not to leave people hanging, try to be prompt, polite, answer questions, be a resource for clients and potential clients. It's basically just back to the same type of demeanor that you would show in person or whatever else. These are the characteristics that you want people to know you for, that you're responsive, that you're polite, that you are quick to answer and you're willing to give of yourself and be a resource as needed, and, avoid being taken advantage of because there's plenty of people who will just suck all your time out of you if they can. But I think in general, this concept of not leaving people hanging and being prompt and polite, I think is sort of, personal characteristics that will sort of carry you.
That that too, and in your industry, in your field, you have coworkers that are, they'll hit you up needing an asset for something that they're working on and project that you're both working on, and if you just leave them hanging, then they're waiting to, on you to finish the project that they're involved with. So it's important that you more than me get back sooner to your coworkers. I always seem to get the 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday when I'm working email that an inquiry or something like that, and my kind of personal take on it is as long as I'm if I'm working on the weekend, I don't do office work until I get back in on Monday.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I don't think anyone would have an expectation that you're supposed to reach out on a Sunday night or whatever, regardless of what your job is. But, but you can define whatever the expectation is for you and whatever works in your flow.
Yeah, I usually, it's about 24 hours for me. And as long as I get back within a 24-hour time frame, I'm okay with it. And unless it's like something that's urgent. If it's urgent, I get right on it. But if it's, something that can wait, like a proposal or something like that, 24 hours just seems to be just my kind of time frame.
And I think that's plenty adequate. That would fall under prompt to me. So now this is a subject that we've talked about before. It's sort of related to networking, but it's sort of near and dear to my heart because it's basically the bread and butter in our company, and that is asking for and rewarding referrals. So in our business, a lot of our clients have come by way of referral. We've done a good job for somebody, so they told their friend, and now their friend is doing business with us. And I suspect this is a pretty common way for people to find new business, especially in a service-related field. If you're the best plumber in town, they'll tell their friends. Your customers will tell their friends, and you'll be the janitor they hire. Or actually, a plumber that they hire.
I actually have a really cool story just from this weekend. I did a wedding Saturday in Chelan, and the bride that was getting married was in a sorority, and so all her sorority sisters were there, and about halfway into the reception, I had 2 or 3 of them come up and say, "Hey, she's getting married and he's getting married," and I had cards ready and was able to talk to him, and actually I think I booked a wedding out of just this one this weekend. So,
oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and not even that. It's that was great that it happened at the show, but usually I would say 90% of all my business, everything that I do, is referral based, and just having every now and then I'll post, okay, I've got these dates this summer that I have available, and if anyone's getting married, anything's going on, these are my available dates. Hit me up, and you'd be surprised how many people will reply, "Oh, my sister's getting married that day," or whatever. It really, just acknowledging the fact that you are looking for referrals, people will help you just by asking. So.
Yeah, well, I think that's really great. And then we've sort of, to take it one step further, we've implemented a program for rewarding referrals. And, basically we'll just try and give back a little something to the person doing the referring, which of course makes them a little more excited to refer again. And so
what do you kind of do for that?
For a lot of our people, it varies. Sometimes we'll take people to dinner. More often than not, it's like a Amazon gift card or a Visa gift card or something, just kicking back a couple bucks saying, "Hey, thank you, go out and get a meal on us." Nice. And it's been nice. We didn't used to do that. We were always grateful, lots of thank yous and stuff. But I think this takes it one step further, and we've gotten some really great referrals out of it. And as a result, we have some also really great referrers. And so that's something that I would sort of recommend. Gift card, edible arrangement, whatever. For the people who are basically helping your business grow.
Lots of times, gigs will come through other DJs. So like I'll be booked, and I'll get hit up for that same date, and I'll just know 2 or 3 other guys that I know are qualified that I usually feed the gig off to. Say, "Oh, I'm not available, but so and so is." And lots of times, if someone sends one my way, if I end up booking it, I like to kind of just throw some cash back to them as a thank you, just saying, "Hey, I appreciate you thinking of me first."
Well, yeah, and what's great about that too is that next time around they'll think of you first again.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's really great. So, all right, I want to shift gears a little bit off of networking. I feel like we beat that one thoroughly into the ground, but I want to talk a little bit about working for free. So
we beat this one into the ground too.
We beat it into the ground a little bit, but it is part of sort of the self-promotion and that. So I feel like it's worth touching again. Okay. But we'll keep it short. We don't have to dive real deep on it, but I just want to talk about the importance of it. I think it's funny though that in recent years, this concept appears to be sort of falling out of favor a little bit. especially sort of among the millennial crowd. But I do think that it's the one self-promotion technique that, has been done more for me in my own career than literally anything else I've ever done. I've parlayed this working for free into jobs, into clients, everything. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not a short-term strategy. I mean, obviously you can't work for free and expect to have, some great thing happen the next day, but the dividends that it can pay over time can be really great. Also, in the agency business, and I don't know, I suppose this applies to a lot of different industries, but especially in agency, working for free is kind of a foregone conclusion. If you hope to do work for government, for big business, any of these places that require an RFP or a request for proposal, those guys are going to ask you to put together an RFP, basically for free before you get any kind of chance to work for them. Basically, you're competing for a job.
So for those of us that aren't in the agency kind of world, what exactly is an RFP? How does that work?
Well, they vary a lot by place, but basically what it is a I guess sort of it could be described kind of as almost like a long-term interview, but it's all put down on paper. So basically, it usually will contain some kind of portfolio, financial information, price quote, so they'll ask you for a budget. You'll, basically say what you're willing to do the work for. You'll often need to show the financials of the agency, so if it's like a big contract, millions of dollar contract, you will often have to show that you're fiscally responsible, tax returns and things like that. They can be very complicated. I've seen some that are hundreds of pages long. In fact, we just laid one out for a contractor looking to do work for a company or for the Denver airport. And our proposal was 330 pages long.
And that's not something you can put together overnight. It's not like a quick email.
No, and I think it was more than the client thought it was going to be at the time. But yeah, I mean, in this particular case, they were asking for a lot of money. And so the airport was trying to be very thorough. And so, so they requested a ton of information. Now, this was an RFP for not an agency, so it didn't include necessarily a portfolio aspect, but it did require referrals from former clients, current clients, examples of work history, things like that, so that they could, basically be judged for those things, which happens to be their service.
This wasn't even a RFP for you. This was an RFP for an agency or someone that hired you to make it for them.
Yeah, correct.
Right?
It's an RFP for a client. And so, I mean, it's the same process, but if we as the agency did it, it would be more like a creative RFP. So there would be, some creative component, strategy components, different pieces.
Essentially, if you were trying to get this job for your agency, all that work that you were doing for them that you were paid for, you would have been doing for free just to even be on the playing field to try and play ball.
Well, and that's the thing, there's not really a template to follow. So it depends on different clients, different type of work, different whatever, so it's not like you can build out one RFP and then shop it around to everyone. And so these things take time. And I've been a part of many proposals, that have literally cost thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to get through a proposal in terms of man hours and everything else to do the proposal. And, and you may or may not get the work at the end of the day.
Yeah. You do all that work just to be able to be there and then not even.
Yeah. And it stings. I mean, I'll tell you, I've been in, part of a couple, $50,000-$60,000 proposals that we don't win. Now when you're dealing at that scale, I mean, maybe 50, 60,000 is an expense, that you can gamble on a little bit. But at the same time, it still stings. It's never fun to lose that kind of dough.
Yeah, it's not.
So moving on to the next thing, this is sort of just a spin-off of the work for free idea, but it sort of goes back to generating that goodwill that we were talking about earlier. It's the idea of being involved in public service or community involvement. And, so like I said, it's an extension of working for free, but it can be, being involved in your community can do a ton of things for your personal brand, your company's brand, whatever, so whether you're involved in a community like the one you live in or in a small business organization or charity group, the work that you do in those capacities addresses a number of things that we've talked about. It builds goodwill, good reputation, builds up your brand, builds up the positive things that people think about you when they think about you. And it also shows your peers, who are often other business owners, what you're made of, the type of person that you are.
Yeah, and not only that, but just being involved in the community, involved in general, you're going to develop relationships with people who are also business owners and who are people that eventually might need your service.
Yeah, well, and I want to take it a little bit further. That I want that for what it's worth. You may not ever really see anything out of it, but doing work for charity groups, nonprofit groups can be super rewarding in a number of intangible ways that improve your life. So even just, the warm fuzzies you get from helping people out can be good for you. So yeah, maybe this is a good networking technique, but at the same time, it's a win-win because you get something positive out of it either way.
Yeah, but you also have to take into consideration too that, there's a limit of how much you can do for free and how much you can. Public service and community involvement's great, but in the DJ industry, there's a meme floating around right now that because lots of times we'll get hit up like, hey, can you do this, running event or whatever? Or we're having something at the high school that we need a DJ for, and it's a fundraiser, and so we don't have a budget, and there's a meme going around, and it's of like the Oregon Trail. You remember back in the day, and it says, "We can't pay you, but the exposure will be great." And the meme says, "You have died of exposure," and it's got the old
from the early Oregon Trail. Yeah, no, I suspect most people listening to this, unless they're our age, don't have any idea what we're talking about.
Yeah, they have.
But
no
there was
clue,
an old Apple II video game of Oregon Trail, and if you haven't played it, look it up. It's life changing.
Yeah, that's hilarious. But anyways, what I was getting at is, at least in my industry, everyone is trying to say, hey, come do this for free. We don't have a budget, but it'll be great exposure for you. You'll get great publicity out of it. And you never really get anything out of it.
It does seem like
in return. You have to pick and choose your battles. If it's something that you, if your dad's diabetic and the fundraiser is something about diabetes or something like that, then sure, why not? I'll go help raise awareness and donate my time, and maybe they'll give you a receipt saying he was here and you can write it off in your taxes. But that's not the reason you're doing it. You're doing it because you have an emotional attachment to it, and it's your community, and you're helping build your community. Not for exposure. Right. And if that's what you're going into it for, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Well, and it's funny. I think what you said hit it on the nose. And basically my final point with all this that sums everything up, and you just alluded to it, is that there's a little bit of a theme here. And basically across the many channels of self-promotion we've discussed, and there are hundreds of other options. These are, just a few basic ideas, but there are literally gazillions of them. The real reality, at least in my mind, of self-promotion and the very most important part is that it's really not about you. Yeah. Which is contrary to what you think, because we're talking about self-promotion and self this and self that. But the reality is that in order to be a successful networker, community service partner, whatever you're going to do, it's really about you giving of you and worrying about the other person, your client, your prospective client, your community, whomever it is. And so really you've got to shift the focus away from yourself and recognize that really it's just not about you.
Yeah, because if you go into it with that being your intent, people will see through you.
Oh yeah, they'll sniff it out in a second, and you will look like a dirtbag that was trying to manipulate people. That's like we were talking about earlier. That's why I'm not a big fan of the elevator pitch, is because it feels to me like you're just trying to shake somebody down real quick and get something out of them, instead of earning that over a long-term development of a relationship.
Exactly.
But anyways, I think, if people going forward will just kind of keep that in mind, if you approach self-promotion from the perspective that you're really special and important and shout it from the mountaintops, you'll find that you're actually doing more harm than good to your reputation and putting yourself at a real disadvantage. As with most things in life, service to others often offers the greatest reward, and the paid version of that, where you're doing work for a company, service for a client, positioning yourself in a relationship with a prospective client, all those things are going to position yourself as sort of a skilled fixer, which makes you attractive to people. So by giving of yourself, the rewards will usually come back to you.
Yeah.
So, and with that, I guess we'll call this show just about wrapped up. A couple of things I wanted to touch on, unless you have anything else.
No, I think I'm good.
Cool. All right. So I wanted to hit on just our sort of ongoing perceived value experiment. You'll have to go back a couple of podcasts at this point to see if you can figure out how to get involved with that. Basically, we're still just taking entries. We'll plug or give some plugs to the show here in a few minutes. So you know where to send that. But yeah, we're still looking for people to get involved in the perceived value experiment, which is basically to, challenging our listeners to evaluate their own worth, share their success and failure stories, and help people who have a hard time with that particular thing to develop their own perceived value. So some plugs. We want to talk about the Spotify playlist. Mike, where can they find that?
Just on the website. We created a page for it. It's eggscast.com. And
you just click on podcast or on Spotify, right? Or Spotify playlist.
Yeah, I think it's called Spotify playlist. I don't have it in front of me here.
Cool. So you can find everything about the show, past episodes, everything else on eggscast.com. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at eggsshow. For me, Ryan, if you want to learn more about me or the company, it's R2 Media Group in Salt Lake City, and for the next 5 weeks anyway, from Spain, it's r2mg.com, at r2mg.com, or at r2mg on Twitter, and at R2 Media Group on Instagram.
And you can find me at djontic.com. That's ONTIC, and Twitter /DJontic.
Cool. So, all right. Well, I think
that's a wrap.
I think that officially ties up our first international broadcast, Mike.
I've noticed, I think that going back and listening to this, we're going to, notice some pauses and just weird stuff that we don't normally have, because being in a room with you, I can kind of pick up on your...
Yeah, it's been a little bit tricky to try and bounce things off or read each other. So, I mean, that's definitely the downer. But hopefully it sounds okay. Hopefully we shared a little bit of good information, and I assume we'll get a little better at this as we go.
Oh, I'm sure. This first time trying this software out, and hopefully it works out as good as we think it will. And give us some feedback. Tell us what you guys think.
Send feedback. Tell a friend. Comment on iTunes. As long as it's nice stuff. I don't want to hear any of the negative stuff.
Yeah, if it's bad, I don't want to hear it.
We're too fresh. I could be easily discouraged.
Yeah.
Tell a friend, and we'll have all the links and everything in the show notes. And we look forward to talking to you next week.
All right. See you later.
All right. Have a good one.